Hello, everyone. This is a video walkthrough of the hypothesis assignment for the first week of the doubt unit. So this is regarding week 2 in the course. So in this video, you can see that I already have the thumbnail available for that, and so I'll just click that to open it. And near the top of the unit, you'll see that I have the hypothesis assignment for it and the instructions, which we'll look at in just a moment. But I just want to take a minute to explain that this is a multi-week assignment, this one hypothesis assignment. We are going to be working in this unit for about a month or so. So we'll be doing this from weeks 2 through 6. And this hypothesis assignment will last weeks 2 through 5. And so each week we'll be looking at a different aspect of the play. And the first week that we explore it, we'll be doing it individually before we discuss it in hypothesis as a group. And this is important for a number of reasons, because it's good for you to figure out what you think first before you enter into a discussion about it with others. So let's go ahead and click into the link here. And I have already clicked into this. Remember that if it's the first time you click into it, you'll see a little pop-up that asks you to authenticate the assignment, and then it'll let you in. And so we can see here that we do have a copy of the play, and hopefully now, after having done the little practice exercise in hypothesis, you kind of have the hang of how to use it. So you've got to scroll down for a few pages to get to the actual play. And so there's the title page, and should be coming up on the preface. So this is the first real place that you should probably start looking to place an annotation. This first layer of the hypothesis assignment will be a tiny bit different than what you did in the practice assignment, in that I'm going to ask you to post to a different area. So I already have a fake comment here that I will show you. And let me go up here and click edit. And notice that I have posted it in the area that says post only to me. Now, normally you'll see this when you're ready to post, because 99% of the time we will be posting to the group. And in fact, it kind of defaults to that. And you don't even have to think about it. You just have to click on the gray button and it posts it where everybody can see. In this particular iteration of or layer of the assignment, though, we want it to go only in the private, only to me area, so nobody else can see the annotations. I can't see them and your classmates can't see them. So if when you click into the hypothesis assignment during week 2, and if you see other people's comments, you need to do me a favor, please, and go into Pronto and say, hey, everyone, remember that this week we're posting privately, and, indicate that there's some people in your group that have posted publicly to the group. So those individuals need to go back and copy paste their comment, erase it from the group, and go back and post it only to me. So this is the one and only week in this unit, and this is probably the one and only time in the whole course we will ever use the only to me area. But you could certainly use that moving forward if you wanted just to make notes on things for yourself. So this is kind of like the big difference between this assignment and the previous one that you did and all the other ones that we do, is that you're going to be posting your first layer of annotations only to you, so that we can all kind of figure out what we think about the play without other people interfering with our thought process. So let me bounce back over here to the main page, and let me direct your attentions to the instructions for this. And so we see here that we have a link to the whole set of instructions. This is a layered assignment, meaning we're going to have that one hypothesis assignment for weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5, and each week will have a different focus. If we scroll down here, we'll see an overview to the whole thing. This is a PDF that you can read here online. You can take your little scroll bar and you can read through this online, but you can also print it out, which I do recommend that you do. You don't have to print it in color or anything. On some of the others, I have images, but it's not at all necessary to print it in color. This is an overview of what we'll do in the 4 weeks that we're in this assignment. So I'm just going to scroll through. You can read it later. Part 1, which is the part we're talking about right now, this is where you're annotating the text by yourself and for yourself, so you can figure out what you believe to be true about the central question of the play. If you've already watched the film, which I recommended that everybody do over the weekend, then you already know the premise of the play and the central question, which is whether or not a priest has done something or is trying to do something inappropriate to a young child, an African American student at a Catholic school at the height of the civil rights movement. And that part will be important. The setting and the time period will be important, and we'll return to that later. But that's the central question of the play. And the first order of business is for you to read the play, annotate it, and figure out whether or not you think Father Flynn is guilty or innocent, because that will become your thesis statement. That will become the thing that you try to prove in the first paper that we'll write in this course. So as we scroll through here, we'll see that in part 1, there's a reminder here that you're going to make your posts only to me. This is why I think it's kind of important and very useful for you to print the directions out so that you can have these handy and in front of you and you're not having to remember. All of the things that you comment on and create annotations for in this assignment will have at least 2 tag types. You're going to tag by layer and by annotation type. This is the first layer, so all of the things that you do for this first initial reading of the play Doubt will have a layer 1 tag type on there in addition to the required annotation types. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Now, part 2 is what we'll do the following week. So this would happen in week 3, and it's just an overview of what we would do with layer 2, layer 3, and layer 4. Right now, we're only concerned with layer 1. But those of you that want to think ahead or know what we're doing after that, obviously after we read it as individuals and figure out what we think when we read it by ourselves and after we've watched the film by ourselves, well, in layer 2, that's when we'll start having small group annotation sessions where we will discuss and debate not only the text of the play, but when it's relevant, also elements of the film version of the play, if those things are different and if those things factor into your argument. This little table here also shows you what the focal point that week is in terms of working on your paper. So this first week, we're reading through the play, figuring out what we think, and the big order of business is for you to figure out what you think. Your working thesis. Is Father Flynn, who is the priest in question, is he guilty of impropriety with a child, or is he innocent? And then, the secondary focus there is for you to process the text to be able to arrive at that conclusion to begin with. And then obviously you'll watch the film if you haven't done so already. So this document here is just an overview of the whole assignment by itself and the fact that this is one assignment that we basically return to each week until the final week of the unit. In terms of the grading, I've got the rubric here, and layer 1, which is what we're doing in week 2, where you're reading just by yourself, it's worth up to 3 points. Or, if you want to think about it this way, 30% of the overall grade. If you go back to the syllabus and you look and you see, well, is this assignment indicated on the syllabus? It is. So it's not just a regular hypothesis assignment. Since we're spending a month on it, it's going to count more than just a regular homework assignment. So this one assignment counts for 5% on your overall course grade. So that's half a letter grade. So let's say, for example, that you had an 85 at the end of the semester and you are lamenting that fact, but maybe you didn't participate in this assignment at all. Well, those 5 percentage points there could be the thing to make a difference between one letter grade and the other. So this assignment is very important, not just for your understanding of the play and to help you be able to write the paper, but it's also important from a vantage point, in that it counts for 5% of your grade. So I'm hoping this adds an added layer of incentive for everybody to take it especially seriously. So you can earn up to 3 points in layer 1. In layer 2, you can earn up to 3 points there, and so on. And you see layers 3 and 4 also have 2 points, and so on. Hypothesis only allows me to grade on a scale of 1 to 10, and so hence that's why the point values on the rubric here are broken up so that they add up to 10. So you may want to print that out just so you can kind of see the assignment as the whole. And then the only other thing that we need in week 2 is this layer 1 set of assignment instructions. And again, you can go up here and click on the print icon to print it out, or you can scroll through and read. Again, at the beginning, we have a reminder that only for layer 1, you will be posting every single post in the Only Me area. This is vital so that nobody else can see your annotations except for you. And we need to kind of keep an eye out for anybody who may have accidentally posted to the group for this week, because everything should be in the private area. Here we have the different annotation types and the guidelines, and I want to explain a little bit about this. The play is not that long, and it's certainly not very difficult to read. It's pretty much all dialogue. There are some important differences between it and the movie, but these first 2 tag types here are going to be the things that you use for the first read through. This week coming up for week 2, you are going to need to read the play at least twice. By the time we're all said and done, you're going to have to have read this play many times. But the initial annotations, those are going to be the comments and the thought processes that you have on the initial read through, right? Kind of capturing those things as you go. You need to do these things to help you be able to draw a conclusion and develop a working thesis as to whether or not you think the priest is guilty or not. So on the first read through, you should begin by focusing on passages, dialogues, or scenes that seem somehow significant, and you're going to select, those little pieces of text that seem important or ambiguous or puzzling or whatever it is, and you're going to capture your whatever explanation or interpretation you're leaning toward based on that in the moment. You may also be posing questions to yourself at this point. So maybe you haven't quite figured something else yet. Maybe you pose a question to yourself that may later be a question that you post to the group. And when you're making these annotations on this initial read through, you'll see on this set of instructions that there's not a magic number. The play is pretty lengthy. Well, it's not lengthy. It's actually pretty short. But since you're trying to figure out what the central, claim is that you will support, trying to figure out what you think and what you believe to be true based on the evidence that you have seen in the text, and maybe based on some of the evidence you've seen in the film, you are going to have a fair amount of annotations. And there's not a magic number, but we are going to be looking for engagement. If you only have 7 annotations in the whole play, well, I can tell you right now that that's not enough. It's not that there's a magic maximum number, but you need to be processing all of the evidence that you see. So you're probably going to have annotations on most of the pages in the play, right? And as you go back through, you're going to notice things that you missed. And later, when we have other when we do the other layers, you'll start to see what you've missed based on what other people are saying or how they're reacting and responding to your posts. So you're going to have a fair amount of those all the way through. You're going to have them all, in all of the acts of the play. And then at some point, at whatever point in that first read through, you've made up your mind as to whether or not Father Flynn is guilty or innocent, then you will create developing a working thesis tag, and you're just going to call it thesis. And that is where you'll make a statement that Father Flynn is either innocent or guilty, but you have to anchor that to a part in the text that actually would justify that. Maybe not in the absolute, but it's a piece of evidence that would factor into your argument. And I have examples of all of these things that I'll show in a minute. On the second read through of this initial individual annotation, you're going to go back through and start analyzing evidence in light of your working thesis. So the first read through is for you to figure out what you think and to kind of puzzle through some things. And then the second read through, now you're reading through to try to find evidence, start thinking about, points you could make and analyzing the evidence. So you'll be looking at quotes, actions, interactions between characters that reinforce your interpretation, and you're providing some analysis and explanation of that thought process. Another thing that you'll do is you'll also start to explore counter arguments. So while you're developing your annotations, you do have to be kind of open-minded about other perspectives and counter arguments. And the reason for that is that the evidence that's in the text, the evidence that's in the play, can truly be spun to build a case that Father Flynn, the priest in question, is either innocent or guilty. Almost every point that a student could make in support of his guilt, another student could take that same point and spin the evidence a different way, provide a different argument, counter that notion, and make a completely different point. So even though, on the second read through, you're going through and you're kind of building positive support for the claims that you're starting to develop, you also need to start looking at, kind of opening your eyes to other possibilities in terms of how the evidence could be spun, opening your eyes to the potential weaknesses that your arguments or your interpretations may have, because this is what will allow you to build a fuller, more complete point that is harder for the other side to challenge, dispute, or weaken in some way. So that'll be important to do even on this first read through. Then the other type of tag type for this first layer is the reflective analysis tag. And this is where your goal is to kind of make note of and reflect on your thought process and how it's evolving through your readings of the play. So consider how your interpretations have developed or changed based on the evidence or analysis. You may look through something on an initial read through, that first read through, and you're thinking one thing, but then maybe as you go back through and you are analyzing the evidence and exploring counter arguments, maybe your thoughts have shifted. And so this is the reflective analysis tag, is where you're kind of thinking about your thought process and how your thoughts have shifted, if they've shifted, and if they haven't, how they are maybe being more solidified. So this is just kind of like thinking about the way that you are thinking. Now for each of these tag types, I do have very specific examples. And, if you're reading this online, you can certainly blow them up. If you're printing them out, you have them available there. But I do have very specific tag types for each of the tag types that I require. And once I start getting into the more specific ones, you'll see that I have one for Father Flynn being innocent, one for him being guilty. And you'll also notice a couple of other things here that are really important. Every single annotation that you make will always have, at least a couple of tag types. You always need to tag by layer, so we know what layer it is. Now, we will know that this is layer 1 because it's going to be in the private area. Nobody's going to be able to see it at all, not even me, until you do something at the end to show me what all you've done. So in this one, in this first one that I've kind of highlighted here, I've got the IA tag. So this is on the initial read through, kind of an initial annotation. I've got that, and I also have a descriptor, and then I have a layer 1 tag. Now, the reason why I put a descriptor here is I'm annotating the text for me, and I want to be able to go back and find what I'm looking for later. If I just label everything as IA, I may not know what it's about, which character it's in reference to, and it's going to be less, maybe not less useful, but it's going to be more difficult for me to find what I'm needing. So I do recommend that in addition to IA, you put some kind of descriptor as to what is that annotation about. So this was an observation that I made about Sister Aloysius, and I had an additional tag that says layer 1. This one, which is the developing a thesis tag, notice that I put thesis innocent or thesis guilty and layer 1. So I've got the tag type there, I've got whether or not I think he's innocent or guilty, and the tag type. Now you'll only have one of these. You will not have two annotations, one to show something that makes him seem innocent and one to be guilty. This is where you put your overall claim that based on all of the things that you've read, you think that he is either innocent or guilty. I just included two here to illustrate and to make sure that anything that I'm putting on the instructions isn't doing anything to, indicate that I think one way or the other, because I don't. And in this next one here, I've got the tag AE, analyzing evidence, and then I've got a descriptor there, and the layer type. So just reminders here that everything has, two annotation or two tags. It should have EC and layer 1. And it looks like on the one to the right here, I accidentally forgot the layer 1. But do try to remember, please, on all the layers. It'll matter even more once we're in the social space, like when we're in layers 2, 3, and 4. It will matter a lot that you're putting layer 2 when we're in layer 2, layer 3 when we're in layer 3, and so on, because that's how I will, be able to see your posts in that layer. I'll be able to sort them according to the tags, and that will help me with the grading. So, and if we go all the way through, I'm going to, probably come back later in the week and point this out. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. And you don't even have to worry about this now, but later in the week, these are instructions for how you're going to show to me that you actually did the annotations. As I pointed out, when you post only to me, nobody can see those, not even me. So if we don't have some other kind of workaround, then I would have no true indication of what it is that you did, or even if you annotated the play in the only to me area. So this is our workflow. Again, we don't really need to worry about this right now, but I will create another assignment link toward the end of the week. This first layer is due by the end of the week on Friday. So all of your annotations should be in on the first layer by the end of the day, 11:59 p.m. on Friday. The grace period will apply till 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. I recommend that you not, don't be posting at 2 o'clock in the morning. Your mind's not likely to be fresh. I recommend that you post, throughout the week, or if you are one of those people that kind of like to just dive in and do it all at once, which I like to do with readings like this, and kind of return to it maybe over time throughout the week, then those kind of workflows are fine too. But once you're all done with those, I will also have a link that will be available and also due Friday, where you'll have to go through these steps to show me what you've done in terms of the annotations. So you'll have to do a little bit of reflective writing, you'll have to include some screenshots and so on, but it's pretty straightforward in terms of how to do that. Moving forward, when we get to layers 2, 3, and 4, you won't have to do this because I'll just be able to go in and see your annotations in the workspace. So let me bounce back over to here and wrap up this video. I hope this is clear. If there are any questions that you have, please don't hesitate to reach out. And if you do have questions, I will ask, please post them in Pronto in the class space so that whatever question you have is something that everybody can benefit from seeing the answer to. It could be that other students also have the same or a similar question, and by posting those in in Pronto, where everyone can see, then everyone can benefit from the answer as well. I hope everybody is having a great day. If you do have any questions or need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Y'all take care, and I'll talk to you soon.